Hello, it is a cold, rainy day here in North Carolina. I'm in the Piedmont, North Carolina. And what better way to spend it than cooking? Well, actually, baking. Okay, this is an unusual scenario for me because what precipitated this video is this. We have a great man at church that I've met through church that's also a fantastic Southern cook. Well, he's been sick lately with like the upper respiratory stuff. He's not had an appetite or really wanted anything. He loves sweets. I asked him a couple of weeks ago if I could bring him a meal, and he said no, that he just really didn't have a taste for anything. No, people, it wasn't COVID. It was something, he tested negative for that. He was just sick. He's better now. I saw him last night, and I asked him what he wanted. A caramel cake. Well, guess what? I've never made a caramel cake. So my intentions were to make a homemade caramel cake and buy a cake mix in case this one didn't work out. Well, guess what? Couldn't find a caramel cake mix at the grocery store. So that's God telling me, you are making this homemade, girlfriend. And you know what? Why not? I'm a cook. I can do this. So I looked up a Southern caramel cake recipe. Looks easy enough. Gonna make it. It uses self-rising flour instead of plain, which I personally always thought that self-rising flours made better cakes than whenever you add your baking powder and baking soda into the plate. That's just me personally. So, and I use the Southern biscuit, the same kind of self-rising flour that I use to make my biscuits. I know that it's a finely ground flour, and I know it'll do well. So John, when you watch this, you'll be able to see how I made your cake, whether it's good or bad, and he'll have to let all of us know. Okay, let's get started. Okay, here we go. I've already prepared my 3 cake pans and preheating the oven into 350. Okay, it wants us to cream 2 sticks of butter. This is equal to 2 sticks of butter. I buy these blocks of butter, and this is North Carolina made butter. It's been softened. North Carolina made extra creamy butter, all natural and 100% all real butter. So I'm gonna lock this in place and start it. And then what it wants us to do is cream the butter until fluffy, and then add more butter and add sugar and let that cream. So let me make sure this is all the way. You want it really fluffy. So I'm gonna go ahead and wipe this away from the edges to be sure that all of it gets fluffed really well. And let it fluff some more. And now I'm going to add my sugar slowly. And this is 2 cups of sugar. You can tell how it gets a little bit bally, like a little bitty dry balls. What I'm going to do, and this is not it doesn't give you really specific directions, but if you bake it all, you just sort of know. We'll go ahead and add the rest of it. Then I'm going to stop it, and I'm going to get off the edge of the bowl because it sort of pushed the butter to the edge. Plus the butter's still a little cool. It's not, of course, warm. So with this metal bowl, it's making it sort of stick. All right, that is done. And now the directions say to let it continue for 8 more minutes. So I'm literally going to put it on high and let this cream and get fluffy with the butter for 8 minutes. Okay, it's been 8 minutes. What I'm going to do, and you can just see how creamy that looks. I mean, all this is butter and sugar. But since it's all around the edge of my pan or my bowl, I am going to take it off the edge one more time. I've done this twice during the 8 minutes. But you can see for yourself, let me get it over here for you. You can see for yourself how creamy that looks. Now, I will say that if you leave your butter out overnight, it'll probably be even creamier and easier to work with. I didn't do that. You can leave real butter out. It will not spoil, especially just overnight. All right, so I've got it to that point. Also, I wanted to tell you that this recipe calls for salted butter, not unsalted. All right, so that's what we're using. Now what it wants me to do is continue to cream it, but add 1 egg at a time. So I'm going to add an egg, and it wants it to be creamed after each, which basically just means to be sure that it's thoroughly mixed in and has that same creamy consistency after each egg. And it'll make it look a little yellowy because of the color of the egg yolk, but you want that blended in until there's no like spots of yellow left. Like that was thoroughly creamy. I'm going to turn it down as I put them in because I don't want it coming back on me. There goes the second one. And notice, when I'm at an egg like this, I only like to open the egg slightly so I don't get any shell in my mix. I'm afraid if I crack it too hard, I'll get shell in there. Look, it's starting to look like a cake mix. So far, butter, sugar, and now I'm getting ready for the 4th egg. Very carefully. Be sure that's all creamed together. Now, if you can see in the bowl, I can still see some egg whites along the edges that are not mixed in well. So I'm going to take my spatula and scrape the edge of my bowl. Oh, it's really, really nice and fluffy now. And then just let it cream just an instant more, just to make sure all of that egg is in there evenly. Now I'm to add flour and my buttermilk. 3 cups of flour, 1 cup of buttermilk, alternating. Here's the deal. They want me to begin and end with flour. The buttermilk, I think, is what makes it the southern part, and the fact that it has a lot of butter in it. But for the begin and end with flour. Turn it down a little bit. We'll get my ½ cup measuring cup out. I don't want flour dust all over the whole kitchen. As much as I love to cook, I hate to clean. Let me add that much flour, ½ cup of flour, and then a little bit of buttermilk in there so it has some liquid, and then I'm going to let that mix. Not quite, about that speed. Once again, I'm going to push down the sides where the flour is not getting mixed in. Continue alternating, adding flour and buttermilk, and you want to end with flour, which will be easier to do because there's 3 cups of flour and only 1 cup of buttermilk. Here goes the last of my flour. I'm just going to go ahead and put it in like so. Let that mix in. Now I'm going to stop it once more. There's a lot of dry flour up on the edges, and I want to get that off and mixed in. So I'll go ahead and do that at this time after I got all of it in there, so I know there's not going to be any more splashing up on the sides. Alright, now what it's asked me to do, it wants me to add my vanilla and beat well after that. And the vanilla it's asking for is 2 teaspoons. So I will add my 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Starting to smell like a cake. Ladies and gentlemen, it is done. So let's see if I can get some of the mix off by lifting it while it's on slow and not flinging all over the kitchen. There it goes. Look at those peaks. Look how well it's holding together. That's a beautiful cake mix for one that I've never made before. There we go. Okay, we've got our cake mix. We're going to divide it evenly into 3 pans. I have the ovens on. The oven is preheated to 350. This needs to bake for about 25 to 30 minutes. My oven tends to bake a little hot. So after about 22 minutes, I'll check it. I mean, you don't want to undercook cakes, but you definitely don't want to overbake them and make them dry. So let's see, which one should I add more in? I don't know, they all look pretty even. I'll just add the last little bit into this one. Now, what you want to do is sort of put it around evenly in the pan. All I've done is spray Pam. Some people line it with wax paper. I have done that before. That works, but Pam seems to work too, and it's easy, so why not? All right, now I've got it spread. Now you said, well, that's not real smooth, but I'm not done. I saw 2 air bubbles in that one. I'm going to bang the air bubbles out. I don't know if you can see up close. There's one right there. I just popped it. See the little hole that's left? So this really does work at getting rid of the air bubbles. Okay, full disclosure. I've never made homemade caramel before. So I'm trying it with you for the first time. I've seen it made many times on television, on cooking shows that I like to watch. This is just asking, you can either move the pan around or just slowly stir with a wooden spoon. It wants you to use a Dutch oven or cast iron skillet as I have here. That's what the recipe calls for, and of course I have one. Over medium heat, 2 cups of sugar, 1 cup of buttermilk, a half a cup of Crisco, a half a cup of butter, and a teaspoon of baking soda. And that's what's giving it that frothy look, is the baking soda. Not really healthy ingredients, but peeps, that's how caramel is made. And it takes a long while. So you want to cook it to a soft ball stage. In other words, you want it cooked down until it looks like caramel and it's thick like caramel, or thick, not too thick. Okay, I have a meat thermometer and it's up to 203 degrees. You can see how it's starting to look more like caramel or caramel, however you say it. I just tasted it and it tastes just like caramel. So it really is working quite well. I know now why they asked for a Dutch oven. A Dutch oven has deeper sides. As you can see, I am at the very top of this double frying pan. So I really did need the size of a Dutch oven, but luckily it's not boiling over. I'm leaving it alone. I'm no longer stirring. I'm just letting it do its thing. I don't know if it's going to reach 235 because I'm afraid to turn it up too high because it might boil over. Okay, basically what's happening is the buttermilk is actually boiling out. I've been able to cut up the heat now, and now's when it's really starting the caramelization process. And I am assuming they want you to use a Dutch oven because it holds the heat after you get it off, and you're going to beat it into the actual icing. Temperature's at 220. I needed it at 235. As you see, it's looking more and more like caramel. I'm gonna let it, and the whole time you're supposed to keep it on medium heat. I'm gonna let it cook about 5 more minutes before I take it off. It's cooked another 5 minutes. Now you can see how it is purely caramel. It wants you to take a wooden spoon and it wants you to beat it. It smells delicious. You can see how much it's cooked down. And you can see also by the time this cools, whew, that's some sweet caramel. Look at that. Look at that color. Look at that beautiful caramel color. All right, the cakes are ready. You'll get them out, put them on a rack, let them cool. Okay. The cake has cooled, both layers, and they have quite a good little crisp on the edge. So I might make this. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to ice the whole thing or leave the edges just plain and maybe let the icing fall down. I don't know. But let's start icing this with my homemade caramel icing and see how it looks and how it does. I have a feeling it's going to be beautiful. So far, the icing looks exactly like it does on the website where I got the recipe. It's called Southern Caramel Cake. That's simple. So if you want the recipe, you can look it up, and it's the first one that pops up with the most stars. Here it is. You can see it's gotten thicker. So I'm going to give it a stir. It's still a little warm, not hot, but warm. And I'm telling you, it is extremely sweet. I'm almost afraid to put too much because it is so sweet. But look how nice it goes on. It really does. Now, I will tell you, it's messy to deal with, but I've discovered just from my cleanup that if it falls on something, just let it fall, because as soon as it gets hard, you can just like pop it right up. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to let this squeeze out, just seep out over the edge. I don't think I'm going to do the whole sides. It's so sweet. I just don't think you need all that much. So just let me take it till it's on the edge. So here's how it looks now. I wonder if I should leave it like that or cover it. You know what? I'm going to make sure it's got even drips on it, and I'm going to leave it. I really am. I'm just going to leave it dripping down the sides. Whoops, piece of cake wanted to come out because it's getting thick. May not be the prettiest cake I've ever made, but I bet it's good. Okay, there it is. Southern caramel cake. Let me put a few designs up here so it's not so plain. A few what I call waves or curls. Put a few curls on top.